This week, a special counsel investigation said that Joe Biden was an elderly man with a poor memory. It reignited a row that's been rumbling for months. Is he too old to be president? Many people think it means Donald Trump is more likely than ever to return to the White House. So what does it mean for the wider West as the global security situation seems more dangerous than ever? No one better to ask that than the former UK National Security Advisor and Ambassador to the United States, Kim Lord Darroch. Good morning, Lord Darroch.
Good morning, Trevor.
Is it all over for Joe Biden?
I don't think it's all over because I think, to an extent, what the special counsel has said was already priced in. The Republicans have been on this issue for months now, but it provides a kind of independent verification of these Republican accusations about his fitness to serve, and so it is very, very damaging to him. By the way, it's not just Biden, of course. I mean, there are similar accusations about Trump, who models up sometimes where he is speaking from or who he is speaking about. Recently mistook Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi. But it's very, very bad for Biden. No wonder the White House reaction has been so furious.
I mean, it's interesting. You're right about Trump, but it cut through with Biden and it doesn't cut through with Trump. Why?
I think because, first of all, Biden, he is older, but only about 3 or 4 years older. But he looks older, physically, looks much older than Trump. There is something kind of indestructible about Trump. He's sort of like the Terminator, you know. You can't imagine him stumbling or looking as old or as feeble as Biden sometimes looks. And second, Biden has had a long history of flubs and gaffes and missteps. So there's an awful lot of stuff in the archives which you can pull up to kind of build this story. And I mean, a number of the, especially the US channels, seem to have them on a permanent loop, all of this stuff from Biden's past.
Do you think there's anything the Democrats can do to pull back from this? I mean, what does he have to do? Done with his vice president? What does he have to do?
It's a high-risk thing, Trevor, but he has to be out there. He has to be doing more press conferences, more town halls, more interviews, more evidence accumulating out there that actually he's on the ball, that he can handle all this stuff, that he knows what's going on. What friends on the Democrat side in America tell me is that actually he is pretty sharp, and all this stuff about cognitive decline is a Republican myth. You just need one stumble or one moment like his mistaking the president of Mexico for the president of Egypt recently. All this special counsel stuff. By the way, it's very strange for a lawyer to stray into a neurological assessment of the president, but there we are. That's American politics for you, I guess.
Of course, one quick point is that all of this makes a Trump presidency, I beg your pardon, loom as more likely. What would a Trump presidency mean for us?
There was a recent headline, Trevor, in The Economist, and The Economist is a fairly sober publication. And I quote, "Donald Trump poses the biggest danger to the world in 2024, which is fairly extreme stuff. But if you look at what Trump is saying on the campaign trail, he says he'll stop arms supplies to Ukraine, which could mean a Ukrainian defeat in the war with Russia. He says on climate change that he would drill. He would certainly leave the Paris Agreement as he did in his first term. He says he would impose 10% tariffs on all imports into America, which would be massively disruptive to world trade and would trigger basically a global trade war. And he's just said that he would, and these are extraordinary words really, that he would encourage aggressors to do whatever they liked to members of NATO who were not paying 2% of GDP for defense. That's quite a turbulent and disruptive agenda, even if not all of it actually came to pass in the Trump presidency. So you understand the worry.
Okay, well, let's turn to, if you like, the hottest theatre of war at the moment. Are the Americans, as you see it, increasingly frustrated by what they see as Israel's behaviour in that conflict?
Absolutely. Not just the Americans, by the way. I think David Cameron, since he's been Foreign Secretary, has toughened UK rhetoric on what is going on in Gaza quite substantially. And it's a very deliberate thing by Cameron to publicly muse about recognition of a Palestinian state. But if you look at the lines that are coming out of Washington, they are much, much tougher and increasingly angry tone, and some actions like President banning those Israeli settlers who've been causing trouble on the West Bank. The problem is that there's a kind of deal that US will offer Israel pretty much unconditional support. In exchange, they get some traction on what Israel does. The second part of that equation doesn't, to me, seem to be working. Netanyahu, so far, seems to me be ignoring all of this American pressure. I don't know how often Tony Blinken's been there, but several times it doesn't seem to be having much impact.
I suppose one of the things that we perhaps don't think about enough is what's happening internally in Israel. Netanyahu was an unpopular leader, but is there a sense in which he himself is now he is now driven by popular sentiment in Israel, which is essentially to prosecute war until and unless the hostages come home?
Well, I think Israel is a profoundly divided country. Netanyahu is an extraordinary political survivor. He's never been dominantly popular in Israel. Every election that he's won has been by a narrow margin. He's had to go into coalition with some right-wing parties to stay in power. But he's been in power for 16 years, which is the longest prime ministerial term of any prime minister in the history of Israel. So he's an extraordinary survivor. I think at the moment that his political career is hanging by the thinnest thread it has during his entire time as prime minister, because he is blamed for what happened on the 7th of October. But there is no doubt that there is a significant body of Israeli public opinion that really wants this ground operation in Gaza to go on for months more and to achieve, as Netanyahu says, the complete destruction of Hamas. By the way, an objective I personally believe is unattainable.
Kim Darroch, thank you so much for your time this morning.